morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on root cause analysis and systemic corrective action. My name is Shannon Craddock, and I'm the Programs and Accreditations Manager here at Perry Johnson Registrars. To ensure sound quality, all participants have been muted. We will open the floor for questions after the prepared portion of today's presentation. Please feel free to type any questions that you have into the questions section of GoToWebinar. This session is being recorded, and a copy of the slides as well as a copy of the recording will be available for download within 24 to 48 hours after the presentation. The slides and the recording can be accessed from our website, www.pjr.com. on the home page about halfway down on the right-hand side. Okay, so today let's talk a little bit about why we're doing this, why we picked this particular topic. And we'll start by breaking down the audit finding and its constituent parts. We'll then talk about actions taken to correct or corrections, root cause analysis, and we'll focus on one technique, the why technique. And then actions taken to prevent recurrence or corrective actions versus actions taken to prevent occurrence of a problem in the first place or preventive actions. And then we'll talk about sound verification activities. So diving in, why are we doing this? Bottom line, we want your organization to improve. PGR is a firm believer there should be a strong correlation between third-party audit performance and an organization's quality and delivery record with its customers. So remember that the purpose of a management systems audit isn't to convince the auditor to write as few nonconformities as possible, but it's to take systemic corrective action for each and every instance found. When we're working on eliminating the causes of problems, hopefully we'll end up with fewer problems, and then we'll start to see this stronger correlation, good audit results correlating with a strong performance in terms of on-time quality and delivery in the eyes of your customers. So an audit finding should have three distinct parts: statement of nonconformity, citation of objective evidence, as well as the requirement that's not being met. So let's talk about these three sections. It's important to note that audit findings that do not contain these three parts should not be written by PGR auditors and should not be accepted by you, our clients. In fact, I encourage you to reject audit findings that don't contain these three parts at the closing meeting. From time to time, auditors may cite opportunities for improvement where it's allowed. These should exist only as statements or recommendations. There will be no citation of a requirement not being met, because if a requirement was not being met, it should be classified as a nonconformity. Because it's so easy to document an opportunity for improvement improperly, we often no longer will do so. There's too much risk that it will look like a nonconformity or could be perceived as consulting. So let's take a look at the three parts. First, the statement of nonconformity. And often we see that the nonconformity recorded is not the problem, but a symptom of the problem. So if the problem is expressed as an issue with a particular person or incident, it's at the symptom stage. The problem needs to be expressed as an issue with the system. And I see both internal and third-party auditors make this mistake. So it's important to get to the true problem, i.e. the systemic breakdown, or the problem-solving efforts will not be effective. Fixing symptoms will not stop the issue from recurring. And at this point in the presentation, I always share an analogy that we can all relate to. Hopefully now, as we're approaching the summer months, this is happening less often. But many times this fall and winter, I found myself or my family members sick. So it would start with sore throat pain and maybe some fever. Taking Tylenol or Aleve to eliminate symptoms is great. It may bring the fever down and it may help with the sore throat pain. But all the Tylenol in the world isn't going to stop my pain if it's being caused by a strep throat infection. So fixing symptoms is not enough. You have to get to the true problem, i.e. the systemic issue, or the problem-solving efforts will not be effective. Furthermore, a well-written nonconformity should stand the test of time. An organization should be able to look back at nonconformities written many years ago and understand exactly what the problem was. So to illustrate this concept, let's look at some examples. First, a statement of nonconformity reads as follows. There was no training matrix for the first shift operator running job 9954 indicating competence to run that job. This is not a good statement of nonconformity because it's a symptom, not the true problem. We're confusing objective evidence with the statement of nonconformity. We're expressing this in terms of a particular person or incident. A first shift operator, and the incident being running job 9954. A better way to write this. The system for recording employee training and competence is not completely effective. Supported by the objective evidence, there was no training matrix for the first shift operator running job 9954, indicating competence to run that job. And then finally, a citation of the requirement not being met. ISO 9001-2015 72D. And you'll note that we carry this as far out as possible, subclause numbers, subclause letters, to really help the problem solver identify the requirement not being met. So a better statement of nonconformity is a system for recording employee training and competence is not completely effective. Here we're focusing on the systemic issue. In fact, that word system is right in the statement of nonconformity. And we're not focusing upon the incident, the first shift operator running job 9954. All right, let's look at another example. The quality auditor in the blue cell was using an uncontrolled form to record the results of first piece inspection. Again, a symptom, not the true problem. Again, we're confusing objective evidence with the statement of nonconformity. A better way to write this, the document control system is not completely effective. Supported by the objective evidence, the quality auditor in the blue cell was using an uncontrolled form to record the results of first piece inspection. And then a clear citation of the requirement not being met. In this case, 9001-2015 7531A. So in closing, a better statement of nonconformity is the document control system is not completely effective. There we go again, using that word system right in the finding itself. We're focusing on the systemic issue and not a particular person or incident. So when you review a statement of nonconformity written by a PGR auditor, perhaps a member of your internal audit team or your customer, ask yourself, have we distinguished between the symptoms and the real problem? And does the final statement of nonconformity focus on a systemic issue? And are there sufficient data, objective evidence, and a clear citation as far out as you can take it of the requirement not being met to assist in understanding the breadth and depth of the issue? PGR has an internal document, our Advisory 3, that requires all auditors to document any non-fulfillment of a requirement as such. It's absolutely inexcusable not to do so. There's no benefit for the auditee, and it contributes to the diminishment of the integrity of accredited management system certification. So when an auditor makes a conscious decision not to write a finding, those symptoms may be acted upon, but the auditee is never truly addressing the true root cause. They're going to continue to see issues with their system, perhaps diminished performance in the eyes of their customers, and the value of an accredited management system really is questioned by the users of the system and itself, and then customers of the system. So it is our expectation that all findings written by PGR auditors have to be documented, as I just explained. If not, you, the auditee, are completely empowered to ask them to rewrite it. Moving on to actions taken to correct, or corrections or containment actions. These are actions taken with respect to the symptom or incident, often referred to as incident-specific actions. They're very important and should be taken as soon as possible to stop the symptoms of the problem. These types of actions, corrections, typically take two forms. One could be we calibrated the gauge or we controlled the form, directly acting upon the symptom that was viewed by the auditor, or adding a layer of inspection to catch any future occurrence of the issue. But remember, inspection adds costs, not value to a system. Later, we're going to see that once a corrective action is implemented, then costly added layers of inspection can be removed. So again, corrections should be very specific to the symptoms found. Taking our first example, the training matrix for the first shift operator running job 9954 was updated to reflect his competency to run that job unsupervised, or all copies of the uncontrolled form the quality auditor in the blue cell was using were destroyed. Corrections also need to include an extent analysis, and this is an often misstepped. What I mean by that, essentially, is a look across. So if we saw one training matrix for the first shift operator running job 9954 that wasn't updated, is this occurring in other cells? Is this occurring in other departments? Looking at all training matrices to make sure they're up to date. So again, there's a need for a correction to include an extent analysis. The auditor found one instance. How many more are there? It's up to the organization to get their arms around the depth and breadth of the problem. Okay, moving on to root cause. A common pitfall with root cause is that many corrective action requests restate the incident for the root cause, and this is never acceptable. Our organization failed to update the training matrix for the operator running job 9954. Yes. Yes, dear client, we know this. We've already told you this. Why? Or the quality auditor in the blue cell didn't use the correct form to record the results of the first article inspection. Again, we know this. We already told you this. Why did this problem occur? Another common pitfall with root cause is sometimes the containment actions get repeated for the root cause. Also not acceptable. Okay, so if you started looking at your email or social media account, now is the time in the presentation where you really want to pay attention. I think this is the single most important slide in the entire webinar. And that is the idea that a good root cause analysis answers the following question. What in the system failed such that the problem occurred? Again, what in the system failed such that the problem occurred? Remember, we're focusing on the system failure and not just the symptoms of the problem. It is possible that some problems may have multiple root causes. some problems may have several possible root causes. If the root cause cannot be discovered, you'll have to take corrective action for all possible root causes. If the root cause has been found, you should be able to turn the problem on and off just like a light switch. If the problem cannot be turned on and off at will, then the root cause has probably not been found. So I previously worked in automotive manufacturing doing systems work for North American plants for a tier 1 automotive supplier. And we were having a hard time with the dual cavity tool, mixing left-hand and right-hand parts in pack-out boxes. So GM was quite upset. We had a third-party sorting company come in. We were on controlled shipping, some big issues. Our problem-solving team met, and we reasoned that since the narrow cell configuration, the narrow manufacturing cell configuration, led to the left-hand pack-out box and the right-hand pack-out box being right in front and behind each other. So the left-hand pack-out box wasn't to the left-hand side of the operator's body, nor was the right-hand pack-out box to the right-hand side of the operator's body, which would be more logical. Instead, the left-hand pack-out box was directly in front of the operator and the right-hand pack-out box behind it. So we thought that that narrow manufacturing cell configuration led to this issue. So we moved the manufacturing press on either side of the press in question, adjusted the floor plan, and rearranged the cell so that the left-hand pack-out box was on the left-hand side of the operator's body, and the right-hand pack-out box was at the right side of the operator's body. Unfortunately, we did not turn the problem on and off like a light switch. We were still mixing left-hand parts and right-hand boxes and vice versa. The problem was not turned off, and as such, we knew we did not have the true root cause. More on this story in a few moments. Let's talk about some different techniques for root cause analysis. Is not, the fishbone diagram are all examples. Today we're going to focus on the 5 why or why technique. Sometimes you can get there in fewer whys, and sometimes it may take a few more. So let's look at our original nonconformity. The system for recording employee training and competence is not completely effective, supported by the objective evidence, no training matrix for the job, for the operator running job 9954 indicating competence. Well, why was there not a training matrix? Well, the first shift supervisor failed to update the matrix as required by the first of the month. Well, why did the first shift supervisor fail to do this? Well, before the end of the previous month, the HR manager would email the training matrix template to all of the department supervisors, but this didn't happen this particular month. Why didn't it happen? Well, the HR manager left the company before the end of the month, and her replacement didn't email the template to all the supervisors. Well, why didn't her replacement know to do this? The procedure for training, which is QP18, didn't include a requirement to prompt the new HR manager to email the template to all supervisors. So you'll see here I've asked why over and over and over again until I feel that I've gotten to my true root cause. Now, I could potentially ask, why didn't the procedure for training include a requirement to prompt? But there's a point where you've gone far enough and you feel you've discovered the root cause. Granted, this is a gray area. How do you increase confidence and make that gray area a little more black or white? Well, what you're going to want to do is make sure that you're not working on these alone. Make sure you've got people from various departments, perspectives. You're using a multidisciplinary approach. Anyone who's touching or has their hands in the situation might provide some valuable perspective. And chances are, if all of you folks from different disciplines agree that you've gone far enough, you're there. You've made it black and white, as opposed to one person sitting in a vacuum at their computer. Let's look at our second nonconformity. The document control system isn't completely effective. Supported by the evidence, the quality auditor in the blue cell was using an uncontrolled form to record the results of first piece inspection. Again, we're going to ask why over and over again until we feel we've gotten to the root cause. Well, why was the quality auditor using an uncontrolled form? Well, controlled hard copies of the form had all been used, so the quality auditor resulted to an uncontrolled form. Why would they knowingly use an uncontrolled form? Well, the quality auditor was not aware that when no hard copies of a particular form were available, that the latest version of all forms could be downloaded through the company's database. Why didn't they know this? Well, they didn't even have a username and password for the database. Why didn't they have a username or password for the database? HR did not have a policy to ensure that all new hires are granted a username and password. So oftentimes I'll be asked, how do you know you've gone far enough? And I often will say I share this everyday happening from my life when my kids will say why over and over again. And I finally get to the point where I say, because I'm the mom and I said so. When you get to the I'm the mom and I said so point, you can conclude you've gone far enough. Regarding root cause analysis, PJR will not accept the following for root cause. Oversight, we misunderstood the requirement, although I do have some flexibility with this. If a series of requirements are new to you and it's just now through the audit process the particular intent of a requirement is becoming clear, I can accept that for a root cause. Much more likely to accept this when you're implementing a new set of requirements as opposed to surveillance audit number 37, however. I forgot another ISO 9001 blunder, or our consultant messed up. Again, you need to own your system and understand the requirements. Human error. Yes, humans will always make mistakes, but there should be systems in place that catch these mistakes. Whether it's error proofing or, if needed, layers of inspection, because error proofing is not effective, cost effective. Okay, moving on to root cause. Moving on from root cause to corrective action. Corrective actions should address the root cause. They therefore should answer the most important question in today's presentation: what in the system failed such that the problem occurred? And I'm going to state that again. A good corrective action addresses the root cause and answers the question: what in the system failed such that the problem occurred? Many organizations give containment actions or corrections instead of corrective actions. This is not acceptable. So you've already treated the symptom. That's done with. We now need to address the root cause. Not only should corrective actions address the system, but they should be irreversible and involve a change to the system. Training by itself is generally not a system change. Furthermore, chances are you already did training. How is it that retraining is suddenly going to be magically effective? And again, incident-specific actions, taking the Tylenol, is not irreversible, and it's not going to address the root cause. All the Tylenol in the world are not going to eliminate a strep throat infection. Keep in mind that when you're implementing corrective action, in some industries, it's going to prompt changes to your DFEMA, PFEMA, and control plan, and may require a new PPAP. There should be at least one corrective action for each root cause that was identified. and subsequent data should show that the problem has 100% disappeared. So getting back to the analogy I was sharing from the automotive industry, when we rearranged the configuration of the manufacturing cell, the problem did not 100% disappear. So we knew we didn't have the true root cause. So we reconvened our problem-solving team, and this time it was a third shift material handler who said, you know, if it was impossible to pack a right-hand part in a left-hand box and impossible to pack a left-hand part in a right-hand box, we couldn't mispack the parts. There you go. We felt we had the root cause. So we worked with packaging engineers we had on staff, re-engineered the packaging with some inserts and dividers in the pack-out boxes to make it impossible to put a left-hand part in a right-hand box and vice versa. And guess what? Data showed that the problem had 100% disappeared, so we knew we had the true root cause. Furthermore, in controlled studies, when we started using the old type of packaging again, and resorted back to that, we could recreate the defect. So we knew that we had the true root cause. So let's look at corrective actions for the examples that we've been following throughout today's presentation. The system for recording employee training and competence is not completely effective. Corrective action, section 4.6 of the procedure for training was updated to include a requirement for the HR manager to email the template to all supervisors. The HR manager was trained, and she added an Outlook reminder to her calendar to do this. Does this address the root cause? The procedure for training did include a requirement to prompt the new HR manager to email the template to all supervisors. It was our root cause, and now our corrective action. Yes, our procedure has been updated. You'll note that there's some training that goes along with it, but there's also the permanent system change of the HR manager adding an Outlook reminder to perform the task. Next, the document control system is not completely effective. The new hire work instruction was revised to include a requirement to grant new hires a username and password for the database, and HR personnel were trained on the change. Again, there's a training component, but not also without a permanent system change to the work instruction. The question is, does this corrective action address the root cause? HR didn't have a policy to ensure all new hires are granted a username and password. And now it does. There's a requirement to grant new hires a username and password to the company database. Good point to remember is that when training is included as part of your corrective action response, and remember, it shouldn't just be the only component to your response, you should also include the technique that you're going to use to verify training effectiveness. How are you going to ensure that training is effective this time? Ongoing sampling, maybe administering the exam are all examples of how you may verify training effectiveness. Preventive actions, not necessarily an explicit requirement of some management system standards now, although it remains a requirement in some schemes, but very important as it relates to risk and preventing occurrence of issues. So preventive actions are going to answer one of two questions. What other systems exist that might have the same root cause present? Or what systems could I have had in place that would have prevented this from occurring? A common pitfall is that many CARs will put corrective actions for preventive actions. Remember that preventive actions address the future, not the past. What could still happen, not what did pass. Not what did happen. Because there are no specific problems that have occurred, there will be no symptoms. So they should address systems and not specific incidents, and should involve changing the system to prevent future problems. Keep in mind that preventive actions aren't only identified because of nonconformities. Management system standards often require a proactive approach with inputs from multiple sources to identify as opportunities for preventive action. Many of you now are addressing the 9001 requirement for risk by using a FEMA, and reviewing your FEMA and looking at very risky situations and trying to mitigate those risks is an example of preventive action. So it should be a proactive process with inputs from multiple sources. Near miss reports, 5S programs, lean initiatives, employee suggestions, etc. In other words, no nonconformity should never mean no preventive actions. Okay, let's close today with verification, a very critical but often not performed or not performed well step in the problem-solving process. This might be because many corrective action forms do not have places for verification at appropriate locations. So sound verification activities should include the following steps. 1, we've taken correct containment actions or corrections. Essentially, we've taken Tylenol to alleviate the symptoms. We've put the Band-Aid on. You've done proper root cause analysis, and you can turn the problem off and on like a light switch. And you've implemented systemic corrective actions that are irreversible. So they involve a system change and not just training. Now, if the correction you took was a costly added layer of inspection, type of correction, you should be able to remove this because you've now determined the root cause and have eliminated it. And then looking for opportunities for preventive action. Keep in mind, however, that corrective actions, even though we want them to be irreversible, tend to be reversible in many cases. When you're changing the system, it means how work is performed changes. And change is difficult. People and systems tend to return to where they feel comfortable. So continue to verify actions even after you get positive results on the first verification. It may not have aged enough, so to speak, for people and systems to return to where they feel comfortable, do what they would normally do, and make sure that that continues to be appropriate activity. I'd like to take a few minutes to acknowledge that some of today's slide content is from the IAOB. And that's it with the prepared presentation. I'll now open the floor up to any questions that you may have. So please type them into the question feature and I will answer as many as I can. Yes, Renee, you'll get a copy of the PowerPoint. The slides will be available for download at the conclusion of today's webinar, typically within 24 to 48 hours. While we wait for more questions to come in, keep in mind that we have a lot of exciting content on other management system standards and other topics relevant to you good folks. Please visit our website, www.pjr.com, for information on previously recorded but new upcoming webinars as well. Got a question coming in from Robert. How do we get past an employee who made a mistake and we retrain the employee to do the tasks properly? So I'm going to assume that the root cause related to poor training, and you did some retraining. If you retrain, you want to change the way that you do training and make sure you're verifying effectiveness. Repeating the same training methodology isn't going to work. Doing role plays, administering an exam after a training to make sure that people really understood. In that same facility, we had a really difficult time recording the correct lot number from the raw material we were using. There were several numbers on the material label, depending who the material manufacturer was. So what we ended up doing is administering a class for small groups of material handlers, showing several types of labels and doing an exercise and asking them to record what they thought the lot number was. And once they all understood what the lot number was, where to find it, and why it was important, we ended up getting better results. Again, if your process allows, like some questions coming in from Ronald and Dina on human error, if your process allows for humans to make mistake, you need to take a look at doing some error proofing with that process whenever possible. And try to eliminate or minimize the likelihood of humans making errors. If that's cost prohibitive, you need to think about some downstream inspections that unfortunately also add cost to catch some of these human errors. My point is that the root cause should not be human error. The fact that humans are allowed to make mistakes points to an issue with the process itself. Wait a few more minutes to see if any other questions come in. Okay, Scott's bringing up a situation where a secondary or an outside vendor has made mistakes in the process that cause rework on the parts. So looking at that situation, what type of verification, Scott, is being done on the parts when they're coming back in? How are you vetting that vendor? Are they certified? Have you done a site visit to the vendor? Have you requested corrective action from them? What is their own system saying? If you have a specific question, Scott, I'd be happy to address that. I'm just kind of speculating what your question is from the comments that you made. And going along with today's presentation, have you clearly communicated what the issues are? And is that communication written at the system level? See if any other questions come in. If not, we'll conclude early. If an internal corrective action is issued for a typo in a work instruction, for example, the word is was used instead of are. Yeah, I don't know if I'd issue a formal corrective action for that, Stacy. Just my thoughts. Okay, folks, it doesn't appear that we're getting any. Oh, here we go. Is disciplinary action a corrective action when employees fail to perform a step in the process? I don't necessarily think, Corey, it will be an effective corrective action to discipline someone. It may be part of your procedure employee handbook, and that's fine. But how is it that an employee is failing to perform a step in the process? Is the process not clear? Are other people making similar mistakes? You really need to understand that to figure out what the root cause is. Okay, folks, remember that you can download a copy of today's slides and the recording at pgr.com. Furthermore, keep your eyes on our website for upcoming webinars on this and other exciting topics. I thank you for your time today. Have a great day.